Hi, this is Cameron. Thanks for joining me on My Child Astrology, where we're trying to parent our kids with intention and using astrology to understand them better. So let's talk about how the sun shines in a water sign. Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces are the water signs of the zodiac, and each has a strong feeling nature. They are very emotional and need the freedom to let their feelings flow. If you think of the way water moves, it permeates everything, flowing through and underneath, penetrating the cracks. It can exist in places completely unnoticed, or it can surge and totally overwhelm. On some level, these kids are tuned into what lies beneath the surface and are constantly influenced by it. Water sign children have a lot more going on internally, which sometimes makes them hard for less sensitive people to understand. They pick up on the undercurrents around them that others may not notice, and they respond with emotions that may not always make sense. They are often highly attuned to the needs of others and want to take care of people. This can sometimes be unconsciously exploited by the adults around them who may be under stress or unhappy for some reason. It's very important to remember that these kids deserve the chance for a carefree childhood, and do not place responsibility for your feelings onto them. It may seem ridiculous for an adult to try to make a 10-year-old their therapist, but believe me, it happens. Their compassionate nature can be soothing to the adults around them, a respite from other harsh relationship dynamics. The sad downside of this is these kids can be wired for codependency. For those of you not familiar with the term, codependency basically means you take responsibility for others' feelings and try to fix them. These children may naively try to do that, and adults in their lives may unconsciously burden them by sharing too much. They are often very intuitive, and one of the biggest gifts you can give these kids is to validate their hunches. But give that validation with boundaries. For example, if your child asks, "Are you mad at Daddy?" and you are, you could say something like, "Yes, Daddy and I had a disagreement, but we are figuring it out. No need to worry about it." And let them go back to being a kid. Your water child's intuition is a huge asset once they learn to use it. It will help them sense out the people and opportunities that will benefit them, and also help them to avoid trouble. They may just not like someone who seems lovely to you. They just don't get a good feeling around them. To the extent that you can, honor it. Obviously, we all have to deal with people we don't like. These kids have to learn that like anyone else. But let them have their instincts about people. It's important for them to develop and mature this since it is a formidable part of their nature. Teach them to trust themselves by listening to them. If they share something you hadn't noticed, consider it. They may surprise you with their insights. Because the water element rules emotions, these kids may have bigger feelings than others, and they may fluctuate quite a bit. Give them room to appropriately express their feelings. It's always counterproductive to tell a child not to cry, but that can really be a problem with these kids, especially the boys. We still live in a culture where boys are socialized to repress their feelings and be tough. This is getting better, and those of you listening probably know better. But as we are still collectively healing from this, we need to be aware of this tendency. There's nothing tough about holding back tears. The feelings just get pushed underground and surface in different ways. In water sign boys, the go-to emotion that carries all of those repressed feelings will be anger. For generations now, it has been the only emotion that is still associated with being masculine. So let your child's tears flow, and keep the faith that they will flow into the next space, which could be laughter or joy. Water is always moving and taking on different forms. Allow it. Water takes on a different form in each of these signs. In Cancer, water is in liquid form, flowing, moving, finding containment in creeks, rivers, and lakes, flowing eventually back to the sea. In Scorpio, water becomes ice. It freezes and holds onto its form. It forms tiny ice crystals that create complex patterns if you look at it closely. It takes a while to thaw and flow again. In Pisces, water disperses into mist, fog, or steam. It releases itself from its containment and mixes with the air, obscuring clarity of formed objects. It clings in droplets to rocks, trees, and grass. It permeates everything around it. This flow is very creative, and water sign children often have artistic ability. These are the daydreamers of the world, using their imagination to make life more beautiful. They can tap into that huge well and bring some of their dream world to life. It's great for these kids to have a creative outlet to pour some of themselves into. They may prefer to sit and draw while their fire sign peers are out running around. Sometimes they can get a bit insular. Being sensitive to external stimulation can make a person want to draw into themselves. They definitely need quiet time and space to themselves to recharge, but too much alone time can get unhealthy for them. They can become very subjective and myopic, in their own little world and overly focused on themselves. Encourage a balance of social and quiet time, but don't be surprised if your water sign kid just has one or two trusted friends they want to be with. Pisces may be a social butterfly, but Cancer and Scorpio often like to keep their circle small. Another thing to mention about the water signs, they are very attuned to other people's needs, and when out of balance can be quite needy themselves. All three signs require a bit of nurturing and TLC. The first of the water signs is Cancer the crab. Cancer is very focused on security. It is the sign directly associated with the mother and being nurtured by her. They are always seeking that safe babe in arms sort of feeling, no matter what age they are. These are often the mama's boys and girls who are very attached to home and hearth. Their immediate family and early childhood shapes their lives to an even bigger degree than the rest of us. And whether or not it is healthy, they will still cling to it. Crabs hold on and don't like to let go. These kids are usually more attached than most to their possessions and may keep some of them for life. The favorite stuffed animal or pillow holds the energy of home and helps them to feel safe. They often have a toy or belonging that they want to take everywhere with them. As it brings them comfort, this should be encouraged. Like the crab, Cancer would carry their home with them if they could. When traveling or even just visiting somewhere else for the day, they will try to recreate their nest wherever they are. So expect a heightened attachment to anything that makes them feel secure, which includes people. These kids may be more clingy than others, so transitions may have to be made more slowly. There may need to be lots of discussion beforehand about dropping them off with relatives or at daycare. They are likely to cry and resist more than other kids, and it can be really hard on their parents to leave them. Know this. Their strong security needs mean that Cancer likes routine, so once the routine and trust in the security of that routine is established, it will become much easier. You will just have to be patient and consistent and give them time to build trust in the new situation. Once trust in a person is established, these kids will cling. Think of what a crab's claw does. It grabs hold and good luck getting it to let go. So your Cancer child can be very possessive of people, places, and things. As they grow older, they can be very tight with money. They will save their pennies to keep a feeling of security. Buy them a piggy bank and teach them about budgeting. They will naturally be very interested. Since Cancer is associated with the mother and the experience of being nurtured, they have a deep and sometimes complex relationship with food. On a basic animal level, food is survival and reassurance of one's security in the world. Cancer may eat just to get that latent reassurance. So it's important to keep an eye out for emotional eating. Overeating can be a sign that emotional needs are not being met, and they may use food to comfort themselves. If you notice this, look a little deeper to see what may need to be addressed. On a positive note, Cancers will usually love sharing meals with people they love and really enjoy family dinners and gatherings that center around food. It is a very basic thing that connects us all and a way for people to show care and love for each other. Think of how, when someone you know is going through a hard time, they're sick or have lost someone dear, many people's first instinct is to bring over a meal. Holidays and religious traditions often center around certain types of food being prepared and shared. It's a very primal way for people to show affection and care for one another, and this is intrinsic to Cancer's relationship with food. The more love and affection they receive outside the realm of eating, the less likely food is to become a crutch. But it will always be an important part of life for them. Young Cancer kids will probably love to be in the kitchen and help in whatever ways are age appropriate. Teach them how to make your grandmother's favorite dessert, the beloved one that's been passed down for generations. This will connect two of their favorite things, food and their ancestry. Like their opposite sign, Capricorn, Cancers are usually very devoted to their family of origin and interested in knowing the history of their ancestors. They appreciate tradition and the comfort of knowing who came before them and how they lived. There's a natural affinity for the tried and true, and often a desire to keep the family traditions going. Because they like to be connected to home and their roots, Cancers have a natural interest in genealogy. Teach them about your family history for better or worse. That desire for security gives Cancer a better ability to learn from others' mistakes. They are usually not the risk takers of the world. So I suggest being open with them about those who came before them, their triumphs, and their pitfalls. While we're on the subject of family, Cancers are often loyal to a fault. They can be very clannish people, even tribal. It's very common for them to become identified with the group they belong to, whether it's their family, culture, or religion. They can be fiercely patriotic. They want the people they know and trust around them and can sometimes be fearful or suspicious of new faces. Again, time and patience is all you have until trust has been established. Once Cancer has become attached to someone, they can become like family to them. Of course, loyalty is only healthy if the subject of devotion deserves it. So sadly, Cancers who grow up in abusive or neglectful households may stay very attached to people who mistreat them. If they embark on a healing journey, it can be very hard for them to let go and open up to healthier relationships. This can result in them staying stuck in negative situations because to Cancer, the familiar is secure. They can definitely fall back into the devil you know kind of patterns. So in parenting them, it is important to guide them and help them navigate their friendship connections. Even if your household is a loving one, your naturally nurturing Cancer may try to take care of or fix difficult friends. Yes, as much as they want to be nurtured, Cancers are also very nurturing people themselves. Young kids may have a baby doll who they love to diaper and feed like mama does for them, and older kids may have a lot of sympathy for people they see as needing nurturing. Parents being protective. Unlike other kids who may get embarrassed, it shows your Cancer that their security is important to you. The caveat here is that this can create a child who wants to be babied, and Cancers often take longer to grow up than the other signs. Their connection to home and early life means they are very nostalgic people, sometimes with a tendency to look backwards and romanticize days gone by. Life passages such as moves, changes of school, a sibling going off to college, can feel like a death to these kids. New experiences that are so exciting to some kids are often met with suspicion as they gauge how they feel about it. It takes them longer to adjust to changes, so you'll have to give more affection and nurturing to soften them into the new situation. In nature, as a crab grows, it has to shed its old shell. Underneath is a soft new shell that takes some time to harden. This is an extremely vulnerable time for the crab, as they're more likely to be eaten by predators. So be very tender with your child when she's transitioning from one phase of life. Know it will take her new shell a while to harden as she adjusts to the new reality. Help your Cancer to consider that what he loves most was once new and unknown, and that there are new treasures to discover. Speaking of treasure, we've all heard the fables of pirates searching the sea for buried treasure, and we can't talk about Cancer without talking about the ocean. Like a crab, Cancers can be introverted. They pull into their shell or scuttle off into their hole in the sand. Some of them seem to have a keep-out expression on their face while alternately being incredibly caring and loving. Remember the ebb and flow of the tides, and you'll understand your Cancer child better. What goes up will come down again, and they may be tossed around in the interim. This is part of why roots and security are so important to them. It helps them stabilize their tidal nature. They have a reputation for being moody and can be quite inscrutable. You never quite know who you're going to get. And they may not know either. They're at the mercy of themselves sometimes. Have you ever been to the beach and watched a crab move? They move sideways in a zigzagging motion with no apparent trajectory. They may dash forward and then back off just as suddenly, very hard to follow. The Cancer personality is nonlinear, and this is why they become so attached to the safety of what's familiar. Try not to take his moods so personally. Find the watery parts of yourself that can flow and adapt as every mother must do as she tries to intuit and meet the needs of her baby. Inside a Cancer of any age is an infant who can't be expected to follow normal life rhythms quite yet. They have their own rhythm, which is as unfathomable as the vast ocean. This is part of why giving them the comfort of a routine can be so stabilizing for them. Just allow them to express the big array of emotions as you help keep them tethered to land. The last thing I'd like to say about Cancer's connection to the ocean is that it makes them incredibly imaginative. Even if you've never been scuba diving, we've all seen pictures of colorful, beautiful, strange aquatic life. And we've only scratched the surface of what lies beneath those waves. On some level, Cancers are tapped into that rich beauty. No 2 days at the beach are the same either. The sky and clouds change the color of the water. The wind makes different patterns in the sand. You can't predict which shells will wash up. It's an ever-evolving landscape. A Cancer who has the freedom to express herself as her moods and impulses shift will create anew each day. There's a literal treasure trove inside these kids, and it will be fascinating to see how your child expresses the art within. But as much as we've learned about the ocean, those dark, deep waters hold dangerous mysteries. Here is where Cancer's imagination can be detrimental. It can conjure up all sorts of scary possibilities. Cancer can be one of the more fearful signs, very risk-averse. It's healthy to have caution, but there's not much growth that happens without risk. Your Cancer will need encouragement to be brave, and they will need the space to make choices for themselves. As much as they may want your guidance, the older they get, let them flex and strengthen their decision-making muscles. It will give them greater confidence as they venture out into the world, however far they choose to go. Since Cancer is ruled by the moon, your child's moon sign, aspects, and house position will tell you a lot about how they express their Cancer sun. For example, a Cancer with Sagittarius or Gemini moon is likely to be much more outgoing than one with a Scorpio or a Capricorn moon. The next water sign is Scorpio. The sun moves into Scorpio in late fall as the abundant life of summer has died and the trees have mostly shed their leaves and seeds. Acorns and walnuts drop and become food for critters or burrow into the soil to possibly become a new tree. Nature is moving into a state of dormancy, back into seed form, sleeping until the resurrection of spring. Scorpio is represented by the power of the seed. It represents where life ends in the fall and the transformation of the seed that begins life again in the spring. Scorpio represents the life-death rebirth cycle, which in human terms translates to sex and death. Kind of heavy energy for a kid to carry, huh? Yeah, it is. And you are the lucky parent who gets to help them navigate it. So how comfortable are you with the death-rebirth cycle in your own life? It's an important thing to consider as you guide your Scorpio child through life. We all go through transitions in life. We regenerate over and over. The old us passes to make way for the new. This cycle connects us to nature. The difference is we tend to resist it, whereas nature does not. Our ego gets attached to our identity being a certain way and is often uncomfortable with change and the process of transformation. The acorn doesn't resist the deconstruction necessary to becoming the little sprout of a potentially mighty oak tree. Since each of us has to go through these transformative processes in our lives, we may as well get comfortable with this cycle. When we become parents, our child-free self is gone. We are newborn along with our babies, stepping into a whole new life. It's hard at first, to varying degrees for different people, but once you've gotten used to being a parent, it's hard to imagine life before. There's truly no going back to your old life. You have changed form into parent. Raising any child will connect you to this cycle because it's just part of being human. But raising a Scorpio gives you the opportunity to embrace it more deeply. There's a certain amount of upheaval in any Scorpio's life because they are here representing this deep, uncomfortable truth. It's not an easy path, but the potential for huge growth and attainment of true power in one lifetime is significant. It's exciting. You will not be bored raising your Scorpio child, but you really have to bring your A game. Not that you wouldn't, but here's the thing. Scorpio is a sign of extremes, and your child's potential to sink to the bottom or rise to the top is greater than the average kid. The beauty of knowing your child's astrological energies is knowing the positive and negative expressions of a particular sign or planetary aspect. That positive-negative binary is especially easy to see in a Scorpio. What many people don't know is that Scorpio is represented by two different creatures, the scorpion and the eagle. The scorpion is always on the defense when it's not attacking, has a powerfully painful sting, and it will even sting itself to death if backed into a corner. So the lower expressions of Scorpio energy can be very combative with others, which ultimately becomes self-destructive. The good news is that Scorpio is also represented by the eagle, one of the most admired and regal creatures on Earth. It soars to the highest heights, but has such clarity of vision that it can spot a tiny mouse on the ground. Your Scorpio is here to ascend to his or her highest potential. So how do you help raise an eagle type of Scorpio? You let her have her power. Now that's a tricky thing to do for a child. For obvious reasons, they have less power than adults. Especially for those of you with younger Scorpios, based on where they are developmentally, how do you let a 4-year-old have a sense of his power? You have to get creative about giving them as much choice as is appropriate. Let them pick out their own clothes and meals whenever possible. If you suggest signing them up for soccer, they may say no without even considering it, just because they want to be in control. If it doesn't really matter to you, let them choose between another couple of activities. Sign them up for the one they want and let them win. You've really got to choose your battles with these kids. They can't help but be wired for power struggles, so whenever possible, take out the struggle. Then, when the time comes for you to unequivocally assert your authority, do it clearly and without compromise. They may not like authority, but they will respect you standing in your power. Which cycles us back to my original question. How comfortable are you with the death-rebirth cycle in your own life, and how comfortable are you with your power? Your Scorpio child is giving you the opportunity to more fully step into it. Show them how you rise to the challenge, but do it with love and an open heart. Another way to connect them to their power is to let them experience the consequences of their choices. Scorpio kids often need to learn lessons the hard way, and an unpleasant consequence will show them the power their choices have to shape their life. They tend to push the envelope because of that tendency to go to extremes. You provide guidance by having moral clarity yourself and following a strong code of ethics. These kids are very observant, and they will notice what you do more than what you say. Keep yourself in alignment and lead by example. Some things will be beyond your control. No matter how loving and supportive your home life is, your Scorpio will have intense life experiences because her soul wants to connect with the essence of true power. That seed part of her that can grow into something mighty. There's a certain amount of intensity and upheaval in the life of every Scorpio. If you believe that adversity builds character, then hold that intention for your child. Cultivate faith in their strength and in yours as well. Remember that this is a water sign, so they are very emotional even if they don't show it. Many Scorpios hide their feelings because they fear that showing them will give away their power. It is very hard for this sign to be vulnerable because of that inherent awareness of power and how relationships navigate the balance of it. There's a power differential in any relationship, of course, but Scorpio is more sensitive to those dynamics than others. This sign is truly a still waters run deep kind of energy, and when they get wounded, it cuts deep. So deep that it can set a whole death-rebirth cycle into motion. So Scorpio can become very guarded and controlling of their feelings, lest something happen and chaos is unleashed. They can see relationships in terms of keeping the upper hand, and power struggles are very common. Your Scorpio will probably buck against your authority to an extent, but much less so if they feel you are on their side. Be very clear to them about why you have a certain rule or how you came to your decision. Let them know the ways in which it is in their best interest, and do not lie or give them any BS. They will see right through it and lose trust in you. Give it to them straight. They are strong souls who can handle some difficult truths. These kids are often challenging to raise, and parents who haven't dealt with their own wounds may respond to the power play by inflicting new wounds on their child. Obviously, a traumatic or abusive childhood sets anyone up for a difficult life, but it can be particularly devastating for a Scorpio child. If this child does not feel loved, he may seek to destroy himself. If you're listening to this channel, you are probably someone who is interested in healing. You're here with the intention of loving your child through life's ups and downs. Scorpios are famous for having a dark side. So another question is, can you love your child's dark side? I'm not saying encourage bad behavior, but can you teach them you love them even if you reject the behavior? Can you shine a light on their innate goodness and see the shadows as a contrast of that inner light? Scorpio will love you fiercely and with utter loyalty while also showing you their worst. Think of changing your precious baby's poopy diaper. Did you love him any less as you cleaned up the unpleasant mess? Prepare to change lots of metaphorical poopy diapers. Let your Scorpio feel your unconditional love even when their poop is on your hands. Help clean them up and help them to do better next time, but love them through it. The trust that creates is huge. It gives your eagle Scorpio her wings. I guess the real question is, in all of this, can you give that unconditional acceptance to yourself? Despite your flaws, can you love yourself enough to feel worthy of repair? Do you believe you're worthy of letting the seed sprout, to change form into a stronger version of yourself? Because that's what parenting a Scorpio requires of you. I'm asking a lot of questions because one of Scorpio's gifts is introspection. They have a natural interest in psychology and like to get to the bottom of things. They like to probe and solve the mysteries of life. When they turn their eagle eye inward, they are capable of incredible growth and insight. But one thing that will stop them in their tracks is shame. A Scorpio who carries shame around will refuse to look at themselves and stubbornly resist change. This inner tension can make them aggressive, defensive, and quite unpleasant. This is why that unconditional love is so crucial to the formation of healthy character. So, more on the Scorpio insight. They are usually very perceptive and pick up on things others wouldn't. They tend to want to read people before opening up themselves. This caution is healthy for them. Give them time and space to form relationships with new people. Because they are so powerfully sensitive, they can be very guarded. They need to know that they have a safe place to land. It's not uncommon for Scorpios to test people and see what they will tolerate. They're doing it partly to gauge how well the other person will stand in their power, and also to test the strength of another's love for them. It reminds me of that Marilyn Monroe quote, "If you can't handle me at my worst, you sure as hell don't deserve me at my best." Scorpios can treat their loved ones terribly, to the point of being abusive. If you find yourself in this position with your kid, it's time to stand fully in your power and give clear boundaries about what is and is not acceptable. They may not like your authority, but they will begrudgingly respect it. Remember, they are always testing the power dynamics of any relationship. It's exhausting, I know, but try to keep your upper hand with an open heart. Ultimately, this is what we want to teach our Eagle Scorpio kids, that an open heart is the truest power, and in order to lead them back to their heart, you will have to stay in yours. Scorpio can be kind of a tortured soul, unfortunately, but an open heart can soften the rough edges of life for them. Because they tend to close off, you might forget how much they need affection. They need it so much more than you realize. They have voracious needs for love and affection, so much so that they try to control expressing that for fear of being vulnerable and not getting it. So even if he seems totally disinterested, give your Scorpio lots of demonstrations of your love. Keep his cup full. Learn his love language. Again, I will recommend the book, 5 Love Languages for Children. It holds such simple and meaningful truths. Does he need praise and compliments in the form of words of affirmation? Does he need hugs and snuggles if physical touch is his love language? Gifts, acts of service, and quality time are the other three. Most of us have a couple of primary ones we need the most. Learn your kids and show your love in these ways, even if your Scorpio has his poker face on. Shower that kid with love. This voracious need for love can manifest in Scorpios as jealousy and possessiveness. They can become fixated on someone or something to the point of obsession. This is because of that need for power and control. We can obsess over something because we want the control of knowing it fully. At any age, you may notice your Scorpio become very possessive of a close friend and jealous of other kids. There's a tendency to become absorbed into another. This is why Scorpios are associated with sex. They want to merge with another and need true closeness and intimacy in order to feel fulfilled. Obviously, a small child doesn't understand sexual energy yet, so it will often show up as clinging possessiveness of another. And if the other does not want the same level of closeness, it can be very painful for your little Scorpio. She may overwhelm friends in future dates with her intensity and have some tough lessons to learn about giving others their autonomy and free will. She may try to control others as a way to ensure that she doesn't get hurt, but in so doing push them away and create a self-fulfilling prophecy. Again and again, she will test the power dynamics to try to keep the upper hand. As she matures, she will have to learn to take as much responsibility as possible for her own needs. That is where true power lies, not in coercing others to give us what we want, but in loving ourselves and giving that love freely to others. That gives space for the love to return to us. So expect more than the usual amount of drama when your Scorpio starts dating. Guide them back to their own power whenever possible, but know that there will be some painful experiences along the way. Remind your teen that she is complete unto herself and to approach relationships from that place. She does not have to get anything from anyone. This is what sets up those power struggles. And know that she probably won't take your best advice as she needs to find out for herself. That's okay, just love her through it. Because of the need to merge and absorb with another, Scorpios can be very sexually curious and precocious. Sexual energy is a power current of energy that flows through all of us to a certain degree. But these kids are more tapped in and tuned into it than others. Obviously, this energy needs clear boundaries, and we are all uncomfortable with seeing it in children. This creates an energy of shame that can distort this very basic life impulse. But the fact is, there would be no life without it. Scorpios may ask a lot of questions about sex, and they need honest, age-appropriate answers. Try to be matter-of-fact about it, even if it makes you blush. They are little investigators and will seek out answers. So you may as well be the one to tell them, rather than the internet or another kid. Teach them how to control their own sexual energy from a young age. All kids need to know what the boundaries are around their bodies and what constitutes safe touch. They need to know that their private parts are private. Have these conversations early with all kids, but especially with Scorpios. A book I like a lot that I read to my own daughter is called It's My Body, What I Say Goes. I will put the link to this in the show notes. It's important to give kids a sense of bodily autonomy, and this book offers some great ways to start those awkward conversations. I have to mention that Scorpio kids, having come into this life to learn intense lessons, and being attuned to that which lies beneath the surface, seem more likely to experience abuse and trauma. It pains me to say this, but my own Scorpio moon compels me to give it to you straight. Your parental radar should be heightened, and you should completely trust your Scorpio child if they don't like someone or want to be around them for any reason. Even very young Scorpios have deep insights about people, and their instincts are there to protect them. Listen to your child and trust them. This is another way that you can let them have their power. Let's talk about the positive manifestation of Scorpio intensity, and that is enthusiasm. They are wired to fully embrace life, the good and the bad. This often gives them great joie de vivre, and they will live life to the fullest. Their intensity can make them very magnetic and the life of the party. Though at times they will get dark, they can shine their light just as brightly. A Scorpio can ask a lot of his parents, But remember that you have a child with unlimited potential. You have a child who is fiercely loyal and loving. You have a child that can see right through others' pretenses. You have a child that can regenerate and heal himself and others. So here's the opportunity to meet your highest potential through the transformational experience of parenting your Scorpio. Our third and final water sign is Pisces, which is also the last of the 12 astrological signs. Pisces is the culmination of all that has come before her. She holds a little bit of each sign within herself. This gives her great empathy and compassion for others, but can also create confusion about her true identity. Who am I if I feel a sense of oneness with everyone? She may spend her entire life answering this question as she tries on different hats, feeling her way through the many types of human expression. So Pisces is the chameleon of the zodiac. She is very adaptable and able to connect with all types of people. This can be a blessing and a curse. It's wonderful because she can have friends from all walks of life. She can get on the other's level and truly put herself in their shoes. She can feel how others are feeling. This level of empathy can be overwhelming, though, and Pisces needs to be able to touch ground as often as possible. They are very impressionable and can take on the characteristics of the people they're around. So in parenting your Pisces, you will have to notice how the people around him affect him. Pisces can be little sponges, so what do you want your child to absorb? To the extent that you can, shelter your very young Pisces from harsh environments and people. They have such a wellspring of empathy for others that sometimes makes them tolerate more than they should. Pisces can become a punching bag or doormat for more aggressive types. So it's important to teach them to also direct their empathy to themselves. There's that wonderful quote attributed to Gandhi, "Your compassion is incomplete if not extended to yourself." Teach your Pisces at a young age that they deserve compassion too. Help them to make a habit of it being a complete circle. Otherwise, they tend to put on rose-colored glasses and try to see the best in others. They can be pretty pie in the sky and naive in their relationships. This can create a very sweet kid who takes other kids under his wing. Pisces are the kind kids who let the misfits sit at their lunch table. And this compassion is their greatest strength as long as they develop the discernment to balance it. So your Pisces will need some guidance here. He will need to learn that he doesn't have to rescue everybody and that it's okay to say no. You will need to create safety around him flexing his no muscle. It can be hard as parents to honor our child's boundaries if it conflicts with something we need them to do. So you'll have to use your own discernment here to pay attention to when your child needs the leverage to assert his own needs and wishes. It's so important for Pisces to become aware of his boundaries at a young age, or he can easily get lost in the world. Because Pisces is the last sign, it represents every quality of the human experience as it journeyed from Aries through Aquarius. If you get familiar with the concept of archetypes, you can better understand your Pisces. Carl Jung defined archetypes as a primitive mental image inherited from the earliest human ancestors and supposed to be present in the collective unconscious. Archetypes are an imprint we all carry within us, and they connect us through the collective experience of those who've come before us. Thus, Pisces is deeply connected to everyone and everything. There's beauty in this, but it doesn't lend itself to having strong ego boundaries. Pisces can have one identity crisis after another as they swim around in this primordial soup. This is why the environments they inhabit and the company they keep are so important. It's very easy to leave your stamp on them because they're already carrying it all. We all know that having too big of an ego can separate us from others, but we need some degree of separation to have a healthy autonomy. Pisces will need to be supported in defining himself to himself as he grows and matures. Your Pisces has a tender heart and a very idealistic nature. They dream of a world of peace and harmony, sunshine and rainbows. The harsher aspects of life can be shocking to them, and they can respond to this by escaping into an imaginary world of their own. They tend to be daydreamers, sometimes seeming not all there or checked out from reality. It's important to give them space to drift and dream. It's their opportunity to heal from the harsher realities of life. It's also where they can tap into their immense creativity. They are usually very artistic and drawn to anything beautiful that inspires and lifts the spirit. This is a very healthy coping mechanism for Pisces, to bring beauty to the imperfect world, to elevate us from the mundane. Speaking of, sometimes the mundane aspects of daily life, our chores and obligations, are hard for Pisces to deal with. They prefer to be having adventures in a far-off imaginary world. So they can get pretty disorganized, always misplacing things, running late with one shoe untied and papers falling out of their backpack. It's important to give them structure and routine because it grounds them and helps them to feel less anxious. Pisces representing the gaseous form of water, they disperse without a container. So give them the containment of routine and some structured tasks and duties. It will help them have more confidence and give them a way to touch ground when they are feeling scattered or anxious. You can think of your Pisces as an earthbound angel. She's very much a spiritual being having a human experience. She's looking for anything that will lift her out of the doldrums of earthly life and help her reconnect to spirit. That is what fuels her creativity. Art, music, religion, and philosophy can all bring a bit of heaven down to earth. Pisces seeks transcendent states of consciousness, which can unfortunately lead to substance abuse. Of all of the signs, Pisces is the most vulnerable to addiction. They need healthy, creative outlets, or they will try to check out by altering their brain chemistry. Sadly, a Pisces who's experienced abuse and trauma can lose themselves seeking an escape from the pain of their life, trying to find a high that lifts them back up. As we know, the path of addiction creates more pain, and a vicious cycle of self-soothing can ensue. If any of you listening are familiar with the 12-step programs that help people recover from addiction, you may know that it is a clearly outlaid spiritual path. Ultimately, any addiction is a longing for God. There's disillusionment with painful life on earth and a desire to escape into a more perfect world. Addiction is a maladaptive way of trying to reconnect with spirit. So in parenting your Pisces child, you will want to connect to your own spiritual beliefs and weave them into your daily life together. From a young age, show your Pisces ways to find the sweetness of life that lives alongside the pain. He may deeply feel the brokenness of the world, but its beauty will help him endure it. So a spiritual path, creative outlets, and a structured routine are important to raising a well-adjusted Pisces. Their compassionate nature makes their relationships interesting. They are usually empathic and feel others' feelings, and the helper in them wants to help make it better. They are very service-oriented and truly want to make life better for everyone. As noble as this is, it can be a recipe for codependency. As we discussed with Cancer, codependency is basically taking responsibility for fixing other people's problems. It's the savior complex who wants to rescue everyone. Children can easily fall prey to this because they are egocentric enough to think that they actually have the power to do that. So as I mentioned earlier in our general discussion about the water signs, it is extremely important to let your Pisces child be a child and not dump your adult problems onto them. We all vent to our children sometimes. That's understandable. But it's important to let them know that you are the adult and you can handle your own problems. Another temptation we all may have at times is to use a little guilt when our child has disappointed us, like, I cooked this nice dinner and you hardly ate it. Or, I bought you that new sweater you wanted and you threw it on your bedroom floor. That kind of thing. The tone of this implies that they are somehow harming you or that you are taking their choices personally. Be very aware of this and tread very carefully here. Pisces want so much to make life better for others that they can become pretty guilt-ridden and their self-esteem will suffer. Another unfortunate side effect of this is that it can sometimes get twisted, and Pisces will start to identify himself as the victim. Part of the shadow side of Pisces is the victim-martyr complex. This is an extreme expression of codependency and can play out even in their early friendships. Or in adolescence, they may be drawn to the bad boy, bad girl types who they can rescue with their love. Yes, inside each Pisces is a self created superhero who can rescue anyone with the power of their love. The fantasy of Disney love stories, in film and cinema in general, is the domain of Pisces. True love's kiss will break the evil spell. This can play out in their adolescent and early adult relationships and leave them very disappointed and disillusioned when the reality of other people's choices hits them. Some Pisces take longer to mature emotionally because of being stuck in these fantasies. Their imagination can create a childlike trust that puts other people up on a pedestal. As beautiful as it is to see the best in everybody, they have to learn that each of us has free will and that martyring yourself is actually manipulation. Pisces needs to learn to take people at face value and not try to get them to be better. The best way to create harmonious relationships is to focus on being your best self and give your kindness and energy to those who return it. Pisces usually don't have trouble making friends. They are some of the most tolerant and open-minded people around, so much so that they may not have any standards. Teach them that it's okay to have standards for the character of friends you surround yourself with. They hate to exclude anyone, but paradoxically, this can mean excluding themselves and their own needs. They need to learn to regularly check in with themselves to ask, how does this make me feel? Is this okay with me? So you as their parent can start asking them those questions very young. They are so tuned into others' feelings that they can lose touch with their own. So it is good to help them factor themselves into the equation more. Enjoy raising this sweetheart of a child. Your Pisces can help you be more aware of life's beauty and give you greater hope for humanity. That's probably worth a messy room and some unfinished homework. So that wraps up our discussion of the sun in water signs. Remember that you know your child best, so take what resonates with you and leave the rest. We'll keep the conversation going as we eventually explore the water signs through all of the personal planets. Feel free to leave a comment about your water sign sun. I'd love to hear how your child expresses this element. Until next time.